You know, they say an idle mind is the devil's playground. If you don't fill it with anything positive, negativity is going to seep in. And I think that's exactly where we was at. We didn't have a lot of positive influences in our life, and we was just left up to our own devices, and we chose to do wrong.
Now I just want to give you a little bit of background of how the case even came to the solicitor's office. Mrs. Barbara Williams contacted me, president of the NAACP, and she asked me to look into Mr. Bryant's life without parole sentence. Ironically, Carl and Lily Smalls also contacted me and asked me to look into Mr. Bryant's LWOP sentence. Again, Ms. Williams has fought the battle for years trying to work within the system. Nothing seemed to work, so she turned to me, I believe, as a last-ditch effort to see if there was something we could do. I promised Mrs. Williams, and also promised the Smalls family that I would look at it, and I did. And what I discovered was, in my opinion, one of the worst miscarriages of justice that I've witnessed in my 30-plus years as a prosecutor. I believe that the main cause for this injustice is because of the actions of the First Circuit Solicitor's Office back in 1997. And I believe it is my duty as a solicitor for this office to fix it here. So on July the 8th, 1997, Mr. Bryant pled guilty to his 2 14th Circuit armed robberies. He pled to both of them, I think it was in a Jasper County courtroom. And the judge could have sentenced the defendant anywhere from 10 to 60 years. The judge decided to sentence the defendant to 10 years concurrent. He then came to Orangeburg, and Mr. Bryant asked to plead guilty to the armed robbery in Orangeburg and take responsibility. The one that occurred prior to the armed robbery in Jasper and Colleton. But he couldn't plead guilty because on August the 1st, 1997, less than a month after the Jasper and Colleton County convictions, the First Circuit Solicitor's Office filed notice to seek life without parole, thus taking away the judge's discretion if Mr. Bryant had pled guilty.
Let me ask you this question.
Did you testify at Mr. Bryant, the defendant right here, did you testify at his Orangeburg armed robbery trial back in December 1997? And are you the only victim who testified to your recollection against Mr. Bryant? Okay. But there was a second victim in the store, correct?
She's deceased.
Okay, and her name was Miss Stephanie Coleman, but she's deceased. And she didn't, to your recollection, didn't even testify at his trial, correct? And where were you working back on December the 28th, 1996?
Easy Shop.
Okay, and that's the Easy Shop located on 178 towards Bowman? Okay. Tell Judge Goodstein, go ahead and tell her about the armed robbery at the gas station that afternoon. That Mr. Bryant, there's no question he did it, that Mr. Bryant did in your Easy Shop when you were working there at 2 o'clock that afternoon.
I was coming from my office because it was time for me to come home, and I actually passed him, and I went behind the counter because we used to sell dip ice cream, and I was going to get me some ice cream before I left, and he had asked for a pack of Newports, and Stephanie had asked him for his ID, and he said, "Is this ID enough for you?" And so I'm assuming he pulled his gun out because I didn't see it. But the look in her eye let me know that something was wrong. So he jumped up on the counter and he had the gun on her. He asked her, he said, "Don't you wish you would just give me them cigarettes?" And I came behind the counter and I knocked her out the way because she started crying. And we was always trained, if you get robbed, to be as calm as you can be because they're as afraid as we are, you know? And so I knocked her down and I started getting the money out of the cash register. He said, "I don't want them pennies." I put the pennies back and I got the money. He took the gun off me and he pointed at Stephanie. And by this time, a young lady came in the store who was pumping gas. And the victim, I met the perpetrator ran out, but it was real fast and simple. Nobody was hurt.
Were you scared?
I was mad.
Did Mr. Bryant fire the gun?
No.
Did he hit anyone? Did he physically assault anyone? And as you testified, nobody was hurt.
express our feelings, I guess.
And you testified, pointed him out in court, you did your civic duty,
Correct.
correct? And, did you feel sorry for Mr. Bryant at the trial? And he didn't deserve sympathy at the trial, did he? But who did you?
I actually felt sorry for his mother and any of his family.
Were you present for Mr. Bryant's sentence after he was convicted? Did you know, to the best of your recollection, I know this is almost 30 years ago, but did you even know that he received a life without parole sentence? To the best of your recollection, when is the first time you recall being told that the man who robbed you and that you testified against, and you are the victim, the sole victim that testified against him, to the best of your recollection, when is the first time you learned that he got a life without parole sentence?
When he called me and asked me to talk in his behalf.
And is he Mr. Chris Kinney? And which gets me to the next point. You've cooperated with my office.
Yes.
And even though you were mad at me this morning because I gave you the wrong phone number, right? We got off to a bad start today. You even agreed to interview with Mr. Chris Kinney and my staff in my office downstairs. And as the surviving victim who testified against Mr. Bryant, what is your opinion as to Mr. Bryant's sentence, and what would you like to see done today or in the near future?
I look at you as a book in the Bible, as the prodigal son, straight away. I pray that this courtroom gives you mercy. Know that I forgive you, and that you can go home, and when he get home, give him a peace for finding his way back home. I really pray that. I call your name out before God ever since I was contacted by him. I've been praying for you. You're on my prayer list. Everybody deserves forgiveness. Everybody in this courtroom has made a mistake. Maybe not as bad as yours, but we all have. Everybody got a closet full of skeletons that they don't want nobody to know about. And I pray you go home, son. I really do. I hope they have a feast for you and you put your feet at the table and you say, this for Miss Loretta Owens. My church is Ministry of Reconciliation. When you come home, if you need a church home, if you don't have one, we'll be glad to accept you.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. And thank you so much. Thank you. I believe what I would have done and what I believe to be appropriate today would be a sentence of 15 years, and I would have run them, my sentence I would have run concurrent with the other sentences. In other words, I would have acknowledged the number, because it would be impossible for me to do that in a vacuum. So I would have upped the ante to some extent. I would not have run them consecutive because of closeness in time and because of your age. But I think I would have done 15 years and I would have run them concurrent. That would be my sentence today. Obviously, you get credit for 27 years served.